This is a Notophagus Antartica. Notophagus Antartica. And it is a really great species for bonsai. However, you rarely see them as bonsai. Also, you don't see them in nurseries all that much. So if you do have one, you might be wondering, how do I propagate it? Well, I have been doing some asking around and everybody tells me these root from cuttings really well. On top of that, you can air layer them as well. Now, I'm not going to air layer them. I really want this trunk to get settled in, get these wounds to heal a little bit and push a little bit for the year. So air layering will be the earliest next year. But I'm going to take a few of these whips off and root them. And as always, when I take cuttings and I do it for a video, then I also show you the end result at the end of the video, so that you know, yes, this works. This is how I can do it. I can just repeat the process and I have a very good chance of being successful myself. So no, you don't have to search for an update. This video will cover the full process. This is a plant that grows really quickly. It is from South America. It has tiny little leaves and a very nice smooth bark. And as it ages, the bark gets really coarse. Now, how do I propagate these? I have a few things here on the table that I need. I have a pot and it's filled halfway with just my normal substrate. I don't think this is all this important. It's just that the pot is semi-filled. Then I have siftings left over when I sifted my pumice, and I think there's a little bit of lava in there and a little bit of clay particles, but it's the pumice, the very fine pumice, that I find important. So this is coarse. There's no real fines in it anymore. This is just the top layer. And that I will just water down in a sack, so that it is nice and compact, and then I can use it for planting. Then I've got a little lid and I've got a rooting hormone jelly. And this rooting hormone jelly, I don't want to stick my cutting straight into the pot because I might contaminate it. Therefore, I just put a little bit on the lid that I can then use. Come. And I've got a little plastic baggie and I'll put everything in the little plastic baggie the moment that the cuttings are in place. And of course, I need a scissor and I need the plant that I'm going to take cuttings off. And now the question is, of course, what do I use for cuttings? Now, I use branches that have grown in this year. You can tell that it is in this year because it has leaves. Everything without leaves is from previous years. I want a strong whip. It is now the middle of summer, so this is semi-woody. This has gone a little bit woodier than just pure herbaceous. And I need to check a little bit in the tree which branches I don't mind losing, because I am still growing this tree out. So this would make a nice branch for cuttings. I'm going to take probably 6 or so cuttings from this branch. Let me find another strong branch. Basically, I'm now pruning out branches that go to the inside and are very strong. So it opens up the canopy a little bit. You can, of course, with a chopstick or a piece of wire or something else, already make a few holes that I can just put the cuttings in more easily later on. And I just make these, what, 3-4 centimeters, a little over an inch deep. Now, the actual cuttings itself, it is really not all that difficult. I want roughly 10 centimeters of 4-inch cutting. I'm removing the bottom 4 or 5 leaves, so I have 2 leaves left at the top. I clip it. Now, of course, I also want to clip the bottom again, if it is dry, and then just dip it in the liquid and just leave it there to sit for a couple of minutes. And I do this another 2 or 3 times. I am in this case also going to try the very herbaceous tip. Most trees don't like this sort of material. It is actually quite weak already and it might start to dry out or get fungal infections. Now I'm cutting directly below a node, so where there's a little bud sitting. You know that every point where there's a leaf attached, there's a little bud as well. And if you just cut right below it, this is for most species a very good place to root. And here I'm just going to clip the herbaceous tip off and leave it. So this is now becoming quite a nice collection of cuttings. With all these cuttings taken and the rooting hormone on it, I can just start filling this pot. You see the holes are still a little bit big, but that will resolve itself in a second, because I'm going to just close the holes with my fingers and then I'll water the whole pot once again. Let everything drip. And once it is enclosed in the baggie, I put it in the shade. It's not going to be in full sun. Might get half an hour or an hour of morning sun, nothing else. Otherwise you're going to cook everything. The baggie is going to be closed for, well, at least 4 weeks. And then I'll open it up. If any fungal infections occur, then I take off the leaves that are infected, and if a single plant is infected, I'll take the whole plant out. And after 4 or 5 weeks, if I see any new growth, that's great, then I start opening up the baggie. Also, if at the bottom of the pot I see a few roots emerge, then I open up the baggie. And I don't open it up completely, just leave it a little bit closed. So basically I just open the seal on top and not the rest. That is also the point when you need to pay attention to watering. We're in the end of September, well, late middle September, and slowly the growing season is coming to an end. And that is for me also the time that I want to start cleaning out the garden. I don't want things to be sitting around in plastic baggies that can be blown over. And as this is just an experiment, let me see whether these Notofagus cuttings have actually rooted. Normally, if you take cuttings, you can just leave them in all winter long, and in spring, at repotting time in spring, pull them out. But just for getting my garden cleaned up, I just want to do it now. But there's no reason to take it out except for curiosity, right? That's roots. That's roots. There's a root there. And the others that have rooted? This one has died. This one has died. There's a lot of weeds here. All these weeds have nice roots. But these cuttings, this is a cutting with roots, but no leaves. So it has died after it rooted. 4 with roots. So these are just going to go in their individual pots. And then in spring I might plant them out in a garden bed, or maybe keep them in this for another year. There's tiny little pots with some coarse substrate in the bottom, so this finer stuff doesn't fall through. Add a little bit of the finer. Take a cutting. Gently slide it in the pot. Hold it in place and fill it up. I'm not going to push it down, I'm just tapping it a little bit, and then I'm watering it in afterwards. This way the roots don't break at this last stage. This is actually very nice cutting. This is going to have a very, very nice nebari. So let's pay a little bit more attention. Look at these roots. Look at how nice and radial they are. I'm planting it up so that they stay nice and radial. Cover it up. Don't overthink. Now I could wait the whole winter to show you that these also in spring wake up and start growing, but I think you do believe me when I say this, because if you look at these are nice, healthy and green. There's actually nice growth here already, so I think with this we've shown, yes, Notophagus rooting from cutting works perfectly fine during the growing season. So I'm going to leave it with this. This was Jelle, growing bonsai. See you next time.